The NOS Energy Track Battle Championship continues at Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course. Welcome back to Mid-Ohio and GRIDLIFE's Mid-Ohio Meet. I'm Kyle Heyer, joined by Greg Kramer for our third and final qualifying session before our NOS Energy Track Battle podium sprint later today that will determine our podiums for each of our 7 classes. On track now, Greg, are the Falcon Sunday Cup cars, and this has been a fierce battle, so I'm excited to see these drivers get one more go to get in that top 5.
Yeah, it's been so close, and that's what we've become very used to with this Sunday Cup category. All the cars operating in really close conformity in terms of power, weight, that sort of thing. This is one of the most enjoyable classes.
Coverage of GRIDLIFE Mid-Ohio Meet is powered by Hyundai N. Hyundai N, never just drive. And Falcon, the official tire of GRIDLIFE Track Battle. Cars are on track now and running laps on course. Again, our timing and scoring pylon will show you the best lap time of a driver's weekend. That's all we care about as far as qualifying you into the top 5 for that podium sprint. And Greg, while we were getting through the intro here, Cooper Pierce in that 170 leaped Jimmy Rauch up to a 149.701. So there is only a 1/10 of a second between Jimmy Rauch and Kevin Gu as Pierce jumps another spot here. It's going to be fierce to get into this podium sprint. And Kevin Gu jumps up. They're all shifting and shuffling now.
Every lap they're cycling this. This is awesome stuff. Remember, we kind of expected that maybe the best times would be from this morning. Well, they've obviously done some tweaking on these cars and now are really extracting some speed. And what's helping is with this cloud cover, we don't have a lot of sun on the track. It's keeping the ambient temperature down a little bit as well. So these are still pretty darn good conditions.
Yeah, so all that shifting, Michael Ross Smith got his way in, shoved Gu back out again in that 463. So he was in for a split second. Greg, look at these lap times. 149.323 in first place with best, and look at Michael Ross Smith, a 149.650. 0.3 of a second cover the top 5, and it is 2 1/1000ths between Michael Ross Smith and Kevin Gu.
Yeah, and I mean, and a 323 and a 384. I mean, that's 6 1/100ths separating the top 2. This is incredibly close. And look at Gu. I mean, he's certainly not out of this. I mean, right now he's literally 2 1/1000ths out, and then you got Rice is right in that window as well, just another 300ths off. Same thing for Rauch. This is by no means done.
No.
Right now, that 6th, 7th, and 8th group could easily rotate up in.
It certainly 2/1000ths is an unbelievably small amount of time for a 100 horsepower car on a 2 1/4 mile track. I mean, that is quicker than the blink of an eye. You can't even snap your fingers and anywhere remotely close to that fast. It's just so tight. And we've still got a handful of minutes left for drivers to shift and shuffle. And if Kevin Gu knew how close he was right now, his best goes for a big slide at the exit of turn 1. I think he'd be really pushing hard.
2 1/1000ths of a second is almost as fast as the time from the light changing from red to green in New York and the cabbie behind you hitting his horn.
Yeah.
We're talking really small amounts of time. So it's Best, Pierce, Smith, and Smythe.
Yeah, Smith and Smythe, 4th and 5th. And Kevin Gu is that Honda Civic, that EF Civic right there in the middle of your shot. He is the driver that is chasing now Michael Ross Smith, who did improve his time. So it's no longer 2/1000ths, Greg, it's 400ths. What a massive gap now. 400ths of a second.
He's driving away in huge leads, isn't he?
It's so close. And Kevin, got to give it everything he's got here. It's a slightly different car. A lot of the cars ahead of him, I think all the cars ahead of him are all Honda Fits. Jimmy Rauch, who was in the top 5, is now 8th, just based on this session alone. Isn't that incredible how much things have shifted?
The churn here has been phenomenal. And I think it's because I was just looking at the temps here, and at this moment here, we're mid-70s at this stage. And again, the real feel's not very high either. And this cloud cover, as I said, is keeping this track right in a great operating window. The track's not getting so hot that you run off the tires in a hurry here. Again, you've got to time your runs well here, but boy, these guys have been.
You know, it's funny. These graphics have a lot of complex stuff happening in the background to do all this calculation, and the graphics guy just messaged me asking if everything was working as intended because it was changing too much because it's so competitive. No, it's working exactly as intended. That's just how good it is right now. The 463 Kevin Gu into the carousel. just chasing hundreds. Well, now it's a 10th because Chris Rice has jumped up into 5th place and bumped Michael Ross Smith out. So Cooper Pierce again to the top of the board in the 170. So it just continues to shift and shuffle. Now Brad Smith, Kevin Gu, top of the board, 149 flat.
That is just remarkable what we're seeing here. Every lap, they're just building speed here. They're timing their runs. They're finding gaps where they need it, and everybody is just laying it down. This is just an immensely competitive session. We thought that this morning would be the quicker one. These guys have all dug deep and are finding it.
Yeah, almost everybody in the top 10 at least has improved. As there's Jimmy Rauch. It looks like he's pulling over to let some traffic on by, perhaps. He was off track in qualifying too, didn't really get a lap in, and now he's down at 8th place. And still at a 149.6, so he's only 3/10 out, and he could very easily qualify back in if he could just find some speed like everyone else has found in this session. So it's so close.
Well, and if he's been pushing, I think what he's doing is smart. Is all right, just get out of it, just point some people by that are on flyers, let those tires cool a little bit. Obviously they're all on the same tires, the Falcons, and just let them breathe for a second, and then come back a little bit here, give them a lap or two, and then put in a big push late.
Here's Brad Smith and Kevin Gu chasing each other now. Smith 3rd, Gu 1st. And they are in reverse order on the track. The red Fit is the 92, that's 3rd. The white Civic is the white EF hatch, that is the number 463 on the scoring, who is scored 1st at the moment. And they're chasing each other now through Thunder Valley and up into turn 11. There's the 134 of Best that was leading, and now he's on the chopping block. 4th place out of the 5 that qualify.
Yeah, and just remarkable. The guy who's on top right now, Gu, when we started this, he was 5th. A few minutes in, he was 7th, and now he's on top. I mean, it's just amazing what's unfolding. And remember, folks, if you're just tuning in, you have to get into this top 5. That's why it says advancing to make it to the championship deciding podium sprint for the championship of the weekend, essentially, and all the trophies and the points. So that's what's huge. If you're in the underneath where it says chasing 6th and back, that means you need to find some time. In this case, not much, but you need to find something.
Well, checkered flag is out on the front straightaway, Greg. So we're going to wait for the last car to cross the stripe, and then we will have our selected top 5 that will be competing in that podium sprint later today. It's not over till it's over as these last couple of cars stream across the start-finish line.
Well, this could be really a bit disastrous for Rauch. If he mistimed his run a little bit, wanted to take a lap off here. If he was able to get through and is on one, that's going to be good. But if not, with that checker coming out, it could be game over.
Lucas Urban could jump up here into the mix. Well, he only did a 150.3, but he's been really fast this season, but only 12th best there. An improvement, but not enough. And I think all these cars have already taken the checkered. There's Pete Lindbergh running around the exit of the carousel. So I think the cars that could make their way in, I think, have given it their shot. But until I see the last cars start hitting pit lane, I'm not comfortable, given how the session has gone.
We've both probably been caught out at some point making that assumption that, all right, and here's your grid. No, it's not.
Here comes a Mini up onto the front straight, the 969. Actually, that's Pete Lindbergh behind the wheel of that car. He's running that with the Fields Auto Works crew. And a few more fits across the checkered. Chris Rice, who is the last driver that is not in the podium sprint as it stands, the 134 of David Best. And that is it, Greg. That is all the checkered flags for all the drivers. So that leaves us with these 5 advancing to the podium sprint. Kevin Gu down to James Smith in the 130. And Chris Rice misses it by 0.2 of a second.
Yeah, extraordinary. And here's the deal. If you throw out Kevin Gu's lap, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th were covered by about a 10th. That's just remarkably close. And Gu, it's not like he was out there by a ton, just a couple of tenths up. So everybody in that top 5 in Sunday Cup have a shot at the title, no question.
It's incredibly close. The podium sprint also for the Fitz has done a little different, or I guess for the Fitz, for Sunday Cup has done slightly different than the other classes. When those cars go out later this afternoon, they go out as a group and they do an elimination style format. They get 5 laps, and every lap we chop one off the list, and so we're left with basically last man standing based on who is the fastest in that session. So that is what's coming up for those drivers, but there are your 5 that are advancing into the podium sprint.
I can't wait to see what they throw out because it is just so impressive what they've been doing here. And I think our largest group is going to be the next one out, isn't it?
That would be our Falcon Club TR class, which is one of the largest groups here this weekend. This is a spec tire category. Everyone's on the Falcon RT 660. And this has been another class that has just been so much fun to watch. Here are the currently advancing drivers. They've got 15 minutes to do better. Granberg, Babar, Weeder, McLaren, and James Houghton are in the top 5. And Mari Maroney is out by less than a half a tenth of a second.
So close. And the guy who might have a little advantage here is Houghton. He was just out for that top 10 shootout for GRIDLIFE Touring Cup. He's got a real feel for what the track's like. His car, similar, not the same, but it's similar enough that he'd be able to extrapolate the data, I think, without any big question here. And the guy who was the real star of that second session, obviously Granberg, jumping to the top, did a nice job. But when we started the session, he was in the top 5. Babar was outside of that top 5, and late in the going put in a lap that launched him up into second spot. So it's possible Maroney is not out of this.
Certainly not, and I think he's got the best shot of anybody that's in the chasing category right now, but
yep.
I wouldn't put it past really anybody. Jason Wynn's been in the podium sprint before, but green flag for Falcon Club TR. Right back to it, Greg. Nice flow to the event so far here. And into turn 1, there's Peter Granberg, the top seed. But the car we're watching is the 727. He's entering turn 1 in just a moment. The dark blue and white Honda Civic EG hatch. That's the car that needs to go faster in order to advance to that podium sprint.
Well, we have seen, at least from Sunday Cup, that this track looks to be really quick. And you know what I think may be happening, again, it's not super hot out there. It's also, as I said, with the cloud cover, the track temperature is nowhere near as hot as it could be. But we have had so much running. There's so much rubber now down on this track that we could be really hitting that beautiful tipping point of just having a ton of grip out there from this rubber.
Yeah, so Granberg works his way through 4 and 5. He's just playing defense right now. We're trying to pick up Mario Maroney in that blue and white Civic hatch, because that's the car that could knock Houghton out. And Maroney, again, in a points battle this season in the Falcon Club TR. He's currently second to Dana Basinski. They each have 4 events. Dana's not here. So this is an opportunity for Maroney to advance without the championship leader. There's Maroney right here behind a Honda Civic as they crest through turn 7.
Yeah, and that's going to frustrate him. I don't think you want traffic at this stage. You're not going to get a tow, that much of a tow here. And I think he'd like some clean track where he can just let it fly. So we'll see what he's going to be able to do here. Is that McLaren?
No,
in front of him? I don't think so.
McLaren's in an Acura Integra.
Yeah, that was a TLX, or a TL it looked like.
I think it's a Civic. It's just got a JDM front bumper on it.
Oh, that's what it is. Okay.
But through the final corner for the first laps around, and I don't see a lot of pickups just yet. Does Maroney pick up this time through? He will not, so they will all stay as is for now. But it might take these cars a lap or two to find a bit of pace. Maroney just ran a 137.1, and that will put him just a tenth off of where his best lap was. Look at Graham Gaylord, though, improving to a 139.1. So
getting into the mix.
That's that Corolla that is certainly has the potential to get up into that podium sprint.
Well, and I give credit. I wasn't sure yet who that car was in front of Maroney, but as soon as he had that big large slide, he just stayed right. You saw his hand come right out the window going, go. And I don't think that really held up Maroney. I mean, you see a car sliding, it's difficult to keep your foot buried in it. So we'll see what's happening here.
The 330, that's James Houghton. That's Houghton in the Civic. I was trying to figure out who that was.
Yeah, me too.
It wasn't a familiar car to me, and Houghton in Club TR is not a familiar combination either. So.
No, so.
But he's playing defense, and Maroney's playing offense, and they were running nose to tail.
Yeah,
so.
That's looking really good. Maroney now, he's got some clear track. See what he's going to be able to do. And you know, for Granberg, Barbar, Weeder, all these guys that look pretty locked in, and I say that because we're talking about, tenths of seconds here is all. But the guys that look pretty good, why they're out. One, as you said, play defense. Always, be ready. But 2, you want to get out there and practice these one lap, runs essentially So I think what you want to do is you want to run a hard lap, take it easy, and then come around, and in your head it's like, all right, I'm doing single car qualifying, and drive that lap. Let's see.
Weeder picked up, McLaren picked up, Maroney picked up. Second place, 136.264. McLaren's on the hot seat. Houghton is out for now.
We were talking about once Maroney got some clear track, would he be able to do it? He answered emphatically there. And now for Houghton, he's got to find about 0.3 to get back into that. I don't think that's beyond the possibility at all. Houghton is awfully talented, awfully quick. But we could see he was fighting that car, obviously. And I have to see if we can figure out a way to deal with that. Somebody dropping a tire big there at the exit of the keyhole.
Yeah, we're still about a second shy of Grant Davidson's front-wheel drive Club TR record. Peter Granberg goes quickest, though, a 136.1, which is, I think, the new fastest lap of the weekend, is it not?
Right, yeah.
It is. Oh, no, Granberg was there. I got mixed up for a moment. But that lap, again, is the new Club TR rear-wheel drive record over Dana Basinski's time from a couple seasons ago. But Mario's done his work. He's not safe by any stretch, but I'd say I wouldn't feel completely on the hot seat now. We've got the good part of the session, looks like, out of the way.
Exactly. Well, and I mean, look how close he got to Granberg. That's going to be really, motivating for him. And he's got 0.3 back to Bobber, and Bobber another 0.2 to Weeder. But look how close Weeder and McLaren are. And Houghton could conceivably, if he really puts a great lap together, could jump up to 4th.
He certainly could, and that will keep us guessing until late in the show here. As leaving turn 1, there's Peter Granberg continuing to circulate. Mario Maroney's going to head on in. He will have seen that time on his dashboard and know that that is good enough for now to get him into the podium sprint. Standing yellow flag at the keyhole, by the way. Haven't seen an incident up there just yet.
I saw that big plume of smoke. Maybe that's, or of dust. Maybe that's why.
That's the 142. Juan Johnson turned around. And he has not had a great weekend. He's always a great guy to talk to. He's always excited, but so far the results haven't been there. Down in outside the top 15, it looks like, for that 142 car.
Oh, look at them just flowing speed. And that's the interesting thing with 4.
James Houghton, and he was actually stuck here at the previous session as well.
Yep.
So he's had another issue, and well, he's the closest one to knocking Evan McLaren out, and with him sidelined, that is at least going to be comforting to some drivers. I think, is that Todd Cayley going for a ride in the 161?
Yeah.
Might be.
Running sizably wide at the exit of 1.
Yeah, Todd Cayley used to drive in GRIDLIFE Touring Cup, and he had sold his S2000 and bought a 2023 Subaru BRZ. That's what he's driving now. And that S2000 is on track here this weekend as well. And right in front of us, there is another car stopped.
Yeah.
An Acura Integra, and that will bring out a yellow flag. Everybody wowing it down here on the front straightaway as they go by this stopped car. So this will likely bring an end to the Club TR session, and thankfully for Evan McLaren, as he comes across the stripe, that is going to be a big safety net cast over his afternoon, as there goes the black flag as well. So everybody will have to return to pit lane, Greg, and if we do not go back on track, those are your 5 going to the podium sprint.
Yep, Granberg and Maroney. Talk about dealing with pressure. That, to me, tells me that he could be the guy to really pay attention to in the shootout, because of that group up in the top 5, he was the one who was outside and had to get it done. He had Houghton have a big lurid moment at the exit of 1, didn't let that affect him, put his head down, dealt with the pressure, and darn near went to the top of the pack. Keep your eye, I think, on Maroney.
Yeah, it's going to be fun to watch, and he has had a fun season, to say the least. He's been in the mix. Yep. He's been there, but we've got some wild moments from Mario this season, locking up brakes and really pushing. But this weekend, he's been pretty tidy and has put himself up in the mix for the podium sprint.
Well, when you're driving race cars and your first name is Mario, you probably feel a little pressure.
I would say you would, yeah.
Because people are going, who do you think you are?
So I'm going to look down and see if they're going to hold them at the exit of pit lane or if they're going to turn them back. And it looks like they are sending them in to the paddock area, Greg. And that, to me, will signal the end of Falcon Club TR's qualifying opportunity. So here's a look as things stand. Peter Granberg, Mario Maroney, Fez Bobber, Evan Weeder, Evan McLaren, those are your podium sprint competitors, covered by just 0.6 of a second, and the difference between in and out, under 0.2 of a second.
Yeah, so tight, so tight. And you just got a feel for Houghton, because he clearly had the potential pace, and then had some problem crop up. But with these cars, when you're running them in this sort of a format, you have them pushed to the nth degree in terms of mechanical stress and right on the limit, and things are going to happen.
I'd say so, but I'm thrilled with how wild these sessions have been. Sunday Cup and Club TR. If this is an indicator of things to come for Street GT and Street Mod, we're going to have a very exciting afternoon. We'll recap and let you know what's happening for the rest of the afternoon while we scroll through these results. Of course, up next is going to be our third GridLife Touring Cup race, followed by Drift, followed by our podium sprint, and then our fourth race. So it's pretty rapid fire here this afternoon, Greg. And it's been a busy morning for GLTC. Race 2, then a lunch break, then immediately into the top 10 shootout, a break for track battle, and then right back into racing. Yeah,
it's been fast and furious, and that's what we love, right? I mean, that's the that's part of the GridLife mantra. It's just constant motorsports entertainment, and oftentimes just blending right into the evening with some musical entertainment to go with it. And on top of it all, just one of the. I mean, I love this phrase because GridLife defines it. There's such a great paddock vibe here.
Yes.
And that's the magic. And all you have to do is ask Eric Cotil. Has a problem. And, I mean, he got offered the engine. There was an engine, but he also got offered all kinds of help. And as you pointed out, he felt it was his mistake, so he was going to do most of the work. He felt that was only fair. But he could have stood back and let 8 people work in that car, and they would have done it happily.
I 100%. And that's what GridLife's all about. Speaking of the rest of the season, upcoming in 2 weeks' time is GridLife Circuit Legends at Lime Rock Park, August 18th to 20th. Tickets are available at circuitlegends.com. New format for GLTC, 8 races instead of 4 with a new A-B race format in order to get more people into the show. More track battle, more drift, and the Legends Concourse and Legends Shootout once again. So upcoming at Lime Rock Park, Greg, one of our favorite events of the year.
Some of the legends that you see at Lime Rock aren't just the cars. There are some pretty legendary drivers that will make an appearance there on occasion. You had a chance to interview a couple of them last year. One of my favorite people on the planet in Sam Posey, truly a national treasure. That's such a great event.
Yeah, I actually got a chance to see Sam again a couple of weeks ago at the IMSA race at Lime Rock Park. We were up there advertising Circuit Legends, and there were a lot of race fans there at the IMSA race that said, yeah, we'll be there. We were there last year. It was great. So if you're near Connecticut, the northeast part of the country, within a couple hours worth of Lime Rock Park, you should go to that event. It really is a special one as far as GridLife is concerned.
Well, if you're in the northeast United States, with the possible exception of Maine,
yes.
If you're in the northeast United States, you're close to Lime Rock.
Right. No excuses.
Exactly.
We'll see you there. And then in October, we have the finale for our GridLife Festival Tour. That will be at WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca for our GridLife Laguna Festival. We're all really excited about that, bringing drift back to Laguna Seca. We've got our GLTC finale there, our NOS Energy Track Battle Championship there.
The numbers look pretty good for that already.
46 entries for GLTC as of today. And Time Attack sold out within a couple hours of opening up tickets, so really exciting stuff. Yeah, I
didn't realize it was. I knew it sold out. I didn't realize it was that quick.
Oh yeah, quick.
I love it. I love it.
Everyone wants to drive that corkscrew. And between then and now in Lime Rock, also we've got a couple other events, our GridLife Club weekends, which are not broadcast. Those are the ones that are really focused on the driving experience without all of the chaos of spectators and broadcast and everything. So we've got a couple of those at Heartland Park. We've got one of those left at Willow Springs. So there are a few left this season, and if you're interested in driving any of those, tickets are still available for those events. Grid.life/events, and find your way there. Street GT on track. Greg, sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, just a quick little warning for everybody who's going to Laguna and thinking all about that corkscrew. I want to hear what you think at turn 6.
Yeah.
Once you've gone through there fast once. Enough said.
The run up the corkscrew. That kink right before that uphill straight towards the corkscrew, that is a corner I really enjoy driving in iRacing, and I'm sure it'll be just as fun to do our Hyundai N track preview on.
It's one of those, to me, one of those vastly underrated corners, like 11 here.
Yeah, we'll bring a helmet because we're going to do our Hyundai N track preview again there. So
are we?
Oh yeah. So be ready for it.
I'll have to bring a helmet, some sweat pads, and a diaper.
Yeah.
Because I assume I'll be riding with you again.
Oh, yeah. I've never been there, so I'm the right person to ride with.
Oh, crepes, see?
Your Midwestern is coming out.
I'm so scared I let my Minnesota out.
Yeah.
Wow.
All right, Street GT on track. And Ido Waxman, currently the top seed in Street GT for the NOS Energy Track Battle Championship. But our eyes are focused on the blue GR Supra of Brandon Hodge and the number 363 Corvette of Kubiak. Those two drivers separated by a second. Those are the drivers that are on that bubble. There's Hodge playing defense. He's 5th right now, but only by a second.
Yeah, I mean, he's so far of all the guys that we've seen in that 5th spot, he's got a little bit more breathing room than the others back to Kubiak, but it's not a lot. And this is the one, too. You look at Waxman and Magnussen, and then there's that about a 2-second gap. So this is the first class we've had now where there's a little bit of spread up in the top 5. But we've also seen that right now this track is quick.
Yeah. Keenan Prusank in the Chevy Camaro ZL1 working his way through turn 1. He's 7th, but only 2/10 off of Kubiak, so we'll keep our eyes on him as well as the field heads up to the keyhole. And on track, in addition to Street GT, is our Street Class top 5. It's Formosa right now at a 38 flat, essentially, with Mike Calloway trailing by 1.2 seconds. We'll keep our eye on both of these categories for the duration of this session.
Yeah, Milky had a little bit of comfort up at the very top. So, again, as you said, playing defense and maybe doing practice runs for the podium sprint that will be coming up. Just getting used to that. All right, dial it up. I've got 2 laps to make a run. And remember, podium sprint, unlike shootouts, 2 laps. So if you have a mistake in that first lap, you can get it done in the second lap. Obviously, though, you want to push hard in that first lap just so you get a banker in case something happens on that second lap. So it doesn't really minimize the pressure. You know, 1 lap qualifying, yeah, that's absolutely on the point of the sword all the time. But 2 lap single car stuff pretty much is too.
Ido Waxman has improved his best at a 1:31.647, so we'll keep our eyes on him as Keenan Prusank rounds turn 13 and across the stripe. Is it a pickup? It is to 3rd. So Keenan Prusank has jumped into the mix, Greg.
And suddenly Hodge is sitting on the outside looking in. That was a great lap by Prusank. I mean, he made up the better part of a second.
That's Kubiak going for a big slide through turn 1.
And saved it. But, yeah, it got away from him big time.
And he's chasing time. I think he knows he had to come in and do some work. And what he doesn't know is that Prusank has just gone quicker and knocked out Hodge ahead of him as well. So he lies 7th now. As no changes in Street Class as of now. We'll let you know if anything changes there. It's still Mielke, Barberis, Barber, Siegel, and Formosa, with Mike Calloway off track at the moment. Lidgewell and Gatos closing in, but not yet shifting the order. Taking a look at Brandon Hodge's car. There's John Raymond taking a look. Wonder if he's been off course as John's looking under the car and maybe checking to see if he's picked up some passenger grass.
There you go. Well, and you look at it right now, Hodge would literally need to find 5/100ths of a second is all to get back into that top 5. Kubiak, on the other hand, needs to find pretty much a full second to jump in front of the 364 of Hendricks. So those 2 guys, this one, Hodge, his job's a little bit easier if he can find it. And he's had that moment. He stopped. That will help those whatever tires he's running. It will give them a little bit of a breather. Get out, do an outlap, and then try and put in a flyer here because not a lot of time left in this session.
No, I think Hodge might get a lap or 2. Ido Waxman is pitting in. Kyle Magnussen is pitting in. So is Luca Barberis, who is currently still 2nd in Street Class. Alex Arteat is in not only the podium sprint, but pulling in. But he's only in by a 1/10 of a second or so.
Yeah.
So that worries me a little that you're bailing out with a couple minutes left in the session.
Yeah, I mean, unless he said there's just nothing left. I've gotten everything that I can out of it. But right now, Hodge He just has to put his head down and find something, because he's not out of it. He's not out of it, as I said. Just needs to dial it up just a smidge. A little bit different story in street for Callaway right now.
Yeah, Callaway has got a pretty big chunk to make up, and I did see him pull off earlier, and I don't think he's returned to the racetrack just yet, so he might not get an opportunity, but Lijabel, Gatos, and Umba are on track right now, and Callaway is back on track. I see him now coming up on the front straightaway, so this is going to be an opportunity for him to improve, but not this time through. And Brendan Hodge, I don't know if he's warming up or has a problem, but he is slow coming out of turn 9.
Yeah, interesting. I think this is still his out lap.
Yep, maybe building a gap.
Yep, looking for a gap and also looking to set up. And what you want to do here now is he's coming up through 11. If he's looking at starting a flyer, really go out, go way, way wide here. There he goes. Now going to turn it in and get to throttle. Yeah,
he was following Kevin Wendt in a much slower Subaru, so he was just trying to build that gap so that he doesn't run into the back of traffic. But here goes Brendan Hodge, and this is the final mission to get into the podium sprint.
This is it.
And he doesn't have to find much. That's the crazy thing, Greg, is all this work all weekend to get knocked out by a couple hundredths of a second. You just need a little.
Just a bit, and that's the pressure cooker here. Boy, he turns in really early for the keyhole. Let's see if he makes that work. Look, it sounded like he was a little slow to get to throttle, and that's what happens when you turn in early. It's the old fast in, slow out scenario. But let's see what he does.
He might get time for one more, Greg, but he's going to run into the back of traffic. That's the bigger concern.
Exactly. So here he goes, hard on the brakes down into 4.
Oh, it looks like he's, I don't know if he's off pace, Greg. I think he's slowed down. Yeah, he already caught that traffic.
He did, yeah. He's going to be just beside himself right now.
Yeah, so still no checkered. We've got opportunity, but
he just needs to just crawl for a minute. But the problem is then you lose the heat in your tires.
Well, he's got Eddie Siegel behind him as well, so he can't hold up a competitor. That is something that will carry a penalty with it.
Well, he slips through on the Crown Vic. That looks to be basically a aircraft carrier next to a destroyer when he comes through, the size of that Crown Vic. So now, you can see he's got through on him, and now he's got to just really be gentle here. And
I think he could probably trust Kevin Wendt to give him space. Kevin's really experienced. He's run timing and scoring for us for years. It's now Emma behind the scenes for us doing that. But Kevin's pretty heads up. If he sees Brandon coming, I'm sure he'll move over for him. He knows that he's not going to be in this mix and that Brandon might be. So we'll see what he's got in store. Quick check-in on the street timing. Ross Lijabel did gain some time and close that gap to 9/10. Yeah, so that is a delicate scenario there for sure also.
All right, here we go. But again, you see Hodge just using that early turn in. And it's okay if you turn in and then really diamond that corner, but the problem is when you turn in early to diamond it, you have to get rid of so much more speed that even if you get to throttle a little bit early, you're coming from a slower acceleration point. All right, now let's see if he really hustles it. Oh, he caught the car.
Oh, he just hit a bad spot. He caught him a couple hundred feet earlier. Wouldn't have been so bad, but yeah. And now it's a hard spot to give a point by in.
Yeah, especially if he's on a fast lap right now.
Well, checkered flag is out, Greg.
Boy.
So that is going to be it for Hodge if he cannot magically pull some time out of a hat here. And it just went wrong, and you have to go back to the moment he went off, Greg, and had to come in to report and check his car out. That he had a clear racetrack ahead of him and gave it away. And sometimes you're not going to get lightning striking twice in one session, right?
Absolutely not, absolutely not. And the problem is that the car that was in front of him, he caught him in a spot where you just can't hit the disappear button.
No,
eventually you've got to turn.
Oh, he's going to
do everything you can. He's seeing the checker and he knows that's not going to do it.
Yeah, or maybe he's hopeful that he is in because he didn't know about Prustang's lap at a 33.7.
That's a good point too.
Right, so hopefully that disappointment is not going to be a crushing blow to his weekend. But here's a look at your top 5 competitors for the Street GT category. Unless the two of Connor Gallagher makes a mockery of me, I'll do that myself, I think. Top 5, Waxman, Magnussen, Prusank, Arteat, and Hendricks. Those are your top 5 advancing in that podium sprint, and it was just 100th of a second or so. That was the difference.
Yep, so tight.
So that
Connor Gallagher mockery. That is not easy to say quick.
It's not. You heard me trip over it 3 times. And there's a look at your Street GT lineup, and then here is your top 5 for the podium sprint for Street class. Joe Mielke, Luca Barberis, Tony Barber, Eddie Siegel, and Greg Formosa, who held on, although Ross Lidgebel gave him everything he could handle. 9/10 between those 2 cars.
Yeah, Ross was really hustling it late in that session, so nice job by him at this stage. That one looks right now, the top 2 have a little bit of a gap back to 3rd, 4th, and 5th. So we're going to have to see if any of those guys in that bottom 3, if you will, are able to make some adjustment, find a little something.
So Street and Street GT, pretty thrilling fight there, and we did have a shift and shuffle. So every class so far, Greg, we've seen someone get bumped in this session. We thought Q2 was going to be the one that everyone went quick in, but it has been this 3rd qualifying. And next up is Street Modified. So this is a fun one. We've got Ryan Matthews in this, Eric Dewey DeWitt, Cal Fortner, Kyle McHugh, Jamie Santos, and more. And there is going to be an odd man out. And I don't think we're done deciding it just yet.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you here. It's just this track is proving to still be plenty quick. And now we're getting into some stuff that's got some serious aero and some additional work in terms of power and the like. And this should be fun. And this is it. I mean, this is the one now where you've got to, especially now knowing, if you've been paying attention at these other classes, there are plenty of people going faster than this morning. That sort of ups the ante a little bit here, because you may have been thinking, yeah, I don't have a shot. Well, now you're hearing people jumping from 7th up into the top 3. Now you're going, wow, maybe I do. So now it's time to get serious.
Dig deep and find time, and plenty of drivers have done that so far here this weekend. Here's a look at your top 5 that are currently advancing in Street Mod, but they have one more session to improve or get bumped. So right now it's Kyle McHugh at a 131.530. That's a silver Toyota GR Supra. He is the last driver in by 1/10 of a second over Andy Sau.
And another 10th to Santos. I mean, so certainly Sau and Santos, you'd think would have a respectable shot at getting into it. Take a little bit more for Simpkins there at that 133.9, but certainly Sau and Santos in with an opportunity here. This one's going to be fun.
And Dewey DeWitt smashing the all-wheel drive, and I really mean smashing by almost a full second, that Street Mod all-wheel drive record that was set in previous years by the RS Motors crew in the summer of 2020, a 3-year standing record broken just like that this morning. So I know Dewey's happy with that, but I'm actually surprised he's out on track, to be honest. I don't know that he has to play a lot of defense, Greg. I think he's a shoe-in for the sprint with the time that he's got, and I just wonder, I guess just maybe testing and tuning and finding some more time for that sprint, but man, it's also a risk.
Or practicing, like I said, practicing those, doing mock runs. Sometimes that'll help you, but you bet anytime you go out on the track, it's a risk. And if you're comfortably on top, the last thing you want to do is go out and throw it away and throw it into a barrier or something. So there's always that risk. But on the other hand, for Dewey, he wants to make sure that he's got this thing absolutely dialed, and himself too, mentally, for this podium sprint coming up.
Well, let's not forget also Dewey is a real time attacker in the sense that he loves the trophy, Greg, but the real trophy is the track record for a guy like Dewey. And yeah, he's reset it, but there is always time to get. And if he's seen how fast the track is right now, opportunity here to grab that track record and solidify it even more so that he can carry it for more years. So I imagine that, yes, the competition, he's leading and he's a shoe-in for the sprint, but yeah, the record is also what he's chasing, and there's always opportunity for that.
Well, you know what? I think that is a really good point that, with this sort of, revisioning of the time attack format here for the NOS Energy Drink Track Battle Championship, that doesn't necessarily mean that people are just going to play the podium sprint quali game. If they are old school time attack folks, as you said, the record itself might be even more important than that weekend championship and a trophy. So he's given it, no question about that.
I mean, the record used to win you the weekend, right?
Yeah.
And you could run that on Friday morning and be done. But the idea of this format was to kind of condense the action into something that's a bit easier to watch both trackside and at home, and to give the drivers a bit more. And a pickup, new track record again. Derek Dewey to win a 128.395, and Ryan Matthews picks up to second place at a 129.362.
So he's actually closed that up. He was now he's within a second of DeWitt. That was a great lap by Matthews.
It was, and the street mod rear-wheel drive record was a 128.849 by Jackie Ding last year, and Matthews is still about a half second off of that, but closing in for rear-wheel drive. Dewey is off pace now, so it looks like he's going to head back to pit lane. Matthews will continue. Amick, Fortner, McHugh playing defense to Sal and Santos, but I haven't seen any of those guys go quicker just yet.
And I'm not as familiar with time attack as you are, particularly the previous process. But if you set the record earlier in the weekend, my guess is the guys with that real time attack mentality, they want to reset it every time they go out. It doesn't mean more points,
right,
but they want to go out and reset that record because that's how they're wired.
Yeah, and so the challenge with that was that they'd reset a record early in the morning and then load up the trailer and go home.
Yeah.
Because the morning sessions, when it's cool and dry, those are often your best laps of opportunity. Now, that is usually the case. So far, this session has proved otherwise this weekend. The clouds have come in. The ambient temperature has not really raised all that much, and that's why I think you're seeing lap times continue to fall. So, yeah, in the past, if you knew it was going to be hot and sunny later in the day, there's no point in going back out there.
Yep.
You came there, you did what you had to do, you broke the record, and everyone else behind you is going to do the same thing. And so you'd have a lot of tail off in the entries later in the day, and you certainly would never go out in the rain.
Right, yeah, absolutely.
There were wet records, but they weren't a huge deal. They didn't win you anything, so there wasn't a lot on the line there. This new format forces you to drive in the rain, drive in conditions that you don't want to drive in, because if that happens to be the best session that you're going to get for the three qualifyings, like that's the time you have to take. You don't get a free, nice, clean, dry session all the time, and you have to drive through it in order to dominate and win in this new championship.
Well, and as you said, obviously that new format was conceived to make it more watchable from a spectator / broadcast perspective, and I think it also adds just some additional drama on the weekend and total. But hey, if your mindset is I'm going out hard every session, that's what I'm going to do.
Trying to get a look at where this is on track, but is this at 5, I think? The crest of the hill. There's a lot of grass there, Greg. Yes, this is at 4 and 5. And so someone's been off course and dragged a whole bunch of debris on track. And coming over the crest, you're not going to see that until you're in it. And there's Kyle McHugh going over it now. And that is hard even for the corner workers to see at that distance.
And I'm not, and if you're wondering why is that corner worker standing there without a surface flag, because all of that starts before him. So he's not, the driver needs to be seeing it back at 4, and I just haven't seen that flag station. And remember, when it's something like that, they'll leave it up for a lap, and they'll, the next car that comes by, they'll track that car. When that car comes by the next time, then they drop it because everybody will have seen it. So that may be what's playing out, and it was fairly close to the inside of the curb, and those tires are fairly unweighted up there too. So
there's Mike Amick. He was just passing the number 5 Mustang of Malchow, who was off in the gravel earlier, and that minty Mustang was not looking so fresh in the gravel earlier today. But glad to have it back on course, and he'll continue 9th here in Street Mod.
And just watching Amick when you saw him come over the top of 5 when he went to throttle, got a big wiggle, and by the time he saved it, he was just left of center track and had no time to swing out and try and open that angle up. So those are the things that you've got to be mindful of. When you come over, you have a big slide, and where you have to save it, you end up with no ability to really attack the next corner. You might as well bail because you're just not going to have a really quick lap. Looks like Amick opting to do just that.
Also, this is a great session to do a podium sprint sim run, basically.
Exactly.
You talk all the time about professional race series where you've got mock qualifying runs where you go out, you kind of pretend like it's qualifying in practice to set yourself up for qualifying. I think you'll see drivers do that here. typically you might set your tire pressures to let you do 3 or 4 laps so that you can maybe get another run at it. But if you're doing a podium sprint simulation, maybe you're going to bump those tire pressures up a little bit, get you a better starting temp to be prepped for those 2 laps that you get. So maybe that's what's going on for some of the drivers as well. It's an out, 2 laps, and then an in.
Yeah, and some drivers actually prefer 1 lap. They just feel I can dial it up. Almost the old I can hold my breath for a lap and everything. And so what they might do, you just made a great point. They might start that podium sprint with a little higher pressure, knowing that for the second lap it might be a little too high, but they want it right for that first lap because that's when their mindset dials in. So there's all kinds of things you can play. And you're right, you look at, especially endurance racing or, like IndyCar, anything that, where you're running, where you have to do fuel changes, you'll do mock qualifying to dial that up, but you'll also do long runs to determine tire wear and fuel. So, in this kind of setup, if I'm out there and I think I'm going to be in that top 5, you bet I'm doing a couple of mock runs here.
And Mike Omick back out on track. Maybe he'll give it one more go, but I did see Jamie Santos pit in, and I haven't seen Simpkins on track in a little bit either, so we haven't seen as much shifting and shuffling in this session as we've seen in the others. And this session's still green. We've got at least another lap or 2 to go.
And I was wondering whether Omick pitted to try and just find a little bit of a gap, but he just let a couple of cars go by him. So.
Yeah, and it's not crazy busy out there either. It was pretty busy in Club TR and Sunday Cup, but it's a little bit less busy now. The challenge is, I think in Club TR and Sunday Cup, I think everyone's kind of on a similar strategy. You'll run most of the session. In Street Mod, you get to the point where, as you mentioned, some cars are built for 1 lap. We saw Jackie Ding at Midwest Festival run 1 go in the M2 before the performance went away on it.
Yep.
It's just, that's a time attack car. The only lap that counts is the fast one.
Yeah, exactly. And you got to, you have to drive to the car's strengths, obviously. And
Omick's got his fist out the window, which is typically a pitting in signal, and the car's kind of coasting around under power, but out and in.
Yeah, he stopped, went right back out, now going right back in again here. Andy
Sow just crossed the start-finish line. This is him here in the Corvette, so he's starting a flyer, it looks like, and he's got to dig deep and find a second or so, and that's a lot to find, Greg. Yep. But every time we come to a racetrack that is, 13 corners, or I always say 1/10 of a second in every corner at a 13-turn track, that's 1.3 seconds. So find me a blink of an eye in every turn, and you'll be in the podium sprint.
Exactly. That's exactly right. And, running a little wide at the exit at 2. If he didn't totally drop the tires, he's okay. If you just get the edge of the tire out there, it'll still throw a little dirt and debris in the air. But let's see now as he is heading down into turn 4. Listen for an acceleration here. Well, I couldn't hear it because the big thundering Mustang went by right in front of us here.
Into turn 7 or 6 and 7 now, and over the crest at 8. And this will likely be, checkered is flying, so this will be his last opportunity.
Yeah.
Davidson in the 575 went quicker. Here comes the 317 past the stripe. Looks like no pickup there for Turner. And down a couple of gears into the last corner. I think Simpkins in the Supra is right ahead of him as well.
Oh, he's driven. His lines have been absolutely beautiful. It's just whether he's attacked enough for it. And
no pickup.
No, not quite.
And his best lap so far, if I look down the order, what are they running? 132s. The best lap for Andy Sow was a 1:33.1, so he was about a half a second off his best. So that's going to be it for Street Mod. And with that, let's bring up the results for you. And here are your 5 podium sprint competitors. Dewey DeWitt, Ryan Matthews, Mike Omick, Cal Fortner, and Kyle McHugh. Those are the 5 that are in. And still, only a 3-second spread in Street Mod. That's actually not that much, considering how wildly diverse this category is and how crazy you can build these cars. Only a 3-second differential is really not really all that wide. And then the podium sprint, we'll probably see drivers within a half a second or so of their times, but spread that across the top 5, you could see some shuffling.
Absolutely. You know, you have one person just make a little mistake and not get all of it out there. Did Cal Fortner even go out? I'm not sure I even saw him.
I think he went out early in the session, but I don't think he did more than a lap or 2.
All right.
But I don't think he was super concerned with defense, given that he had a car behind him and the gaps were pretty big. But we did see a lot of shuffling earlier in the day, so that was a bit of a risk. As we prepare for now our final track battle, NOS Energy Track Battle Championship qualifying session of the day, and that will be our track mod and unlimited group. And with the unlimited group, as we come into this session, here's a quick look at it. There are 7 competitors, and 5 will move on. So the only 2 drivers are getting lopped off the bottom of this list. And then as far as track mod goes, it's a bit more, 13, and 8 of those 13 will get chopped and sent home.
Yeah, and you take a look at the numbers here. From that 136.8 is Smith to the 138.1, it's just a little bit over a second back to Bamforth in 6th. And then he's got another little chunk of about 0.6 back to Luke McGrew in 7th. So it's going to be this is a challenge here for Bamforth, McGrew, and then you've got the guys Sunnyville and Blaine. They're a little bit farther back. So it's going to be difficult for those 2 to make the move here. And kind of a similar story here as both Bertulis and Bassett, a couple of seconds off of Luca right now. So they've got to come up with some magic.
Well, Dallas Reed, he had that engine issue earlier today, so that will shift Bertulis in, despite that cut line being a couple of seconds. And Sean Bassett is in that Datsun that is unlimited because of its tire choice and a couple of aero decisions, but that engine is not very modified, so I don't think the expectation is that he was going to come in here and dominate the sprint.
Right.
So certainly working with what he's got for that. But it's a cool car. It's under the Toyo tent that is here in the paddock, and it's a really neat car to look at. But
it is that.
I do think track mod is going to be one to watch. I think we could have a shuffle in here, so we'll keep our eyes on it. And Bronson McNeamer, certainly, after going in the gravel last time around, might want another go.
Oh, that's a really good point, yeah. This is a class where you start to see some really outrageous aero, like this machine coming right at us here.
Yeah, Chris Boersma has been time attacking in this car in Grid Life for years. Was already a couple of years in when I came to my first event at Midwest Festival in 2019, and then rode Atlanta that same year. Boersma and James Houghton competing right alongside each other in different categories, but with K-tuned on the side and similar liveries and things. James originally in an Acura Integra that made 700-ish horsepower, and this Civic can do similar to that. And Boersma, in track modified, actually holds the current track record that he broke with his 130.3 that he has. So he's already smashed his own record here this weekend.
And the interesting thing, folks, when you're watching, you see that white Tesla S out there. That's a car you expect to be sitting in your neighbor's driveway in the nice subdivision. And it's the quickest car in this track mod category.
Yeah, so Tesla's, when we talk about track cars, there's a lot of people that might just, as Sean Bassett's got a problem here, Greg. This is outside turn 11, and this could bring an early end to this session if he can't get moved. But while he is parked there, a lot of people are dismissive of the Teslas on track because of their weight.
Yep.
But the difference between a 4,500-pound Tesla and a 4,500-pound Dodge Charger or something is where that weight is located. Yes. In a Tesla, it's the battery packs that are under the floor, and so you get a really low center of gravity. So yeah, it's a lot of weight to move around, but having 800 horsepower certainly doesn't help. Instant torque, that doesn't hurt, and you can get really wide tires. And here's the thing, all the suspension components that are put under these cars to support all that weight are really beefy.
Yeah.
So as far as track reliability, I would put Tesla's top of the board. It's very rare that you see an issue with one of these cars from a mechanical problem because there's nothing to blow up. There's just stuff to break, and they don't really do that a whole lot.
Yeah, exactly. And they come out of corners like a shuttle launch. And there's no gears, there's nothing like that. You just give it gas and it goes, and it keeps going till you lift off of the throttle. Give it gas, probably not an appropriate term there.
Yes.
But open the throttle up on it, and it just launches, and it's all-wheel drive. So if you have the car dialed up just right in terms of setup, you can really hustle these through the corners. Yeah, you have to slow it down, all that weight, but like you said, you have to do it with a Dodge Charger that's heavy with a lot more, with a lot of horsepower. So you got to get it slowed down. So that's pretty much the same. The only issue is at a certain point, you get the energy usage to, when you're hammering it this hard near the end of a session, it could lose just a little bit of juice.
And temperature certainly affects it as well. But the other thing to consider in terms of slowing the car down is you can get really big wheels on these cars. And under big wheels, you can fit really big brakes. So you certainly can slow them down pretty effectively. But yeah, it is still a lot of weight to pitch around. While that was happening, Chris Boersma reset his own front-wheel drive track mod record again.
Oh, he dipped into the 29s.
29.6.
Sure did. Wow, what a lap.
I don't know if it can be overstated how impressive that is to just continually break your own record. That's what you hope to do, right? It's fun to beat other people's records, but it's especially satisfying to improve and break your own over years and years of competition.
Well, that's progress from a personal perspective, and that's what you like. And the Tesla whispers by.
DeKonig across the stripe. No improvement that lap. And that was a 1:36.45, so about 2 seconds off.
That was a very disconcerting shot because you saw the Tesla going through one, and it was through the kink was some big V8 went whistling by there, and the sound effect just didn't match up.
Oh, man.
Here's a guy you stuffed a Can-Am engine apparently into a Miata. How cool is that?
I love Bronson McNeamer's V8 Miata. ITBs on it. We did a piece on it yesterday where he's got he had beer cans post-event yesterday when everyone was hanging out stuck in the ITBs. Great cup holders, all 8 of them. But Bronson, this is the original intention of a class that was called Track Modified. Now that name has been amended to Track Modern, and now there are 2 paths to take. You can get a modern supercar like Jason Kanakary's 720S or a 488 or something of that and run it with limited modifications, or you can take a track day car and build the heck out of it. And that's what Bronson McNeamer has done. And one of the best looking cars, I think, in the paddock. Spent a lot of time kind of putting the details on, the decals. Just looks really, really good. So very cool looking car as he works his way through the backside of the track. Jessica Powers, by the way, in the 19 up into 4th place. Solid lap time of 1:36.187.
Absolutely, and that has him 7/10 clear of Smith in 5th, so he's got a little bit of breathing room.
That's Josh Powers in that, by the way. Sorry about that.
Okay.
Jessica and Josh are both competitors here in Grid Life, and it is Josh behind the wheel of the 19, but you were saying?
Just saying that he's got a little bit of breathing room back to Smith. In Bamforth, that 38.1 still hasn't been able to improve on that, nor has McGrew, the next closest in 6 and 7, to jumping up into that top 5. And, I love the description here for anybody that's my age. Oh, and a black flag has come out. Anybody my age looking at the injector stacks on that Mazda invokes a very special era.
Looks like Steve Luca, by the way, the number 500 has gone to the top in Unlimited and shifts some things a bit. Now there is a car stopped, and it looks like a Corvette. Greg, I just can't get a really good look at who it is. I'm sure they'll get us close. Could be Ernestus Pizelis in the 338, which would be a red. It is an Unlimited class car, so I think that is Ernestus Pizelis, our 2nd place Unlimited car at the moment. And you're right, brings out a black flag, and that might end this session. So we'll see if we get another or if they're going to turn everybody down into the paddock. As Josh Powers rolls down pit lane, I'm going to see where they send him. And it is into the paddock. Potentially. I can't tell if he's the only one. Or, but we will see. So there comes the rest of the field down to pit lane. What a thrilling Q3, though, Greg. Every event that we've come into with this new podium sprint format, it's been Q2 that's been the hot one.
Yep.
And to see Q3 really mix things up has been exhilarating today.
Well, it almost caught us off guard, didn't it? I mean, we were sitting there going, all right, this is just, we're going to see what happens. Somebody might, boom, track record, boom, up into, it's like, this is going to be fun, and it turned out to be absolutely compelling. Yeah.
It really was. And let's have a look here at our results for Track Mod. And I'm going to make the call now, just guessing that with GLTC on deck here and a tow to complete, that will end our Track Mod and Unlimited sessions. These are your 5 moving on to the podium sprint. Chris Smith, Josh Powers, Bronson McNeamer, Chris Boersma, and Andrew DeKonig in the Tesla. There's the rest of the Track Mod field. And then in Unlimited, I think the only adjustment you're going to see here, Greg, is if Dallas Reed cannot compete with that broken car, they may promote Andres Bertulis into it, but we will see what the decision is on that, or if Dallas will make an attempt to run. But that is your top 5 with Steve Luca, the top seed right now. As far as Unlimited records go, Unlimited rear-wheel drive is held by Ferris Khartoumi 6 seconds quicker than Steve Luca's time. So Ferris has a record here, so no one's going to touch that this weekend, I don't think, at least in the rear-wheel drive category.
Yeah, that well, that car is such a beast that when he sets a record, it tends to stand until he breaks it. Or until somebody builds a bigger, faster beast. And that's not an easy thing to do when you think about that car.
Certainly not. But Track Battle qualifying 3 is complete. Our podium sprint competitors have been selected. And it's time to take a break, and we'll be back with GRIDLIFE Touring Cup race number 3 in just a few minutes. Stay with us. We'll be back in a few.
Line at falcontire.com.
Owning a car can be expensive. It can also be confusing. What? And when things don't go right, there's no doubt it could be frustrating. But it can also be a lot of fun. And for those reasons, FCP Hero exists. Check this out. Do you and your car a favor and head over to fcphero.com to learn more.
Hi, I'm Chris Forsberg, and when it comes to classics and high-performance cars, I only trust America's #1 racing oil, Valvoline VR1. It's built on Valvoline's long legacy in racing, so I can continue to build my own. With 2 times more zinc than the industry standard, VR1's high-performance formula is tested on the track and trusted on the road to ensure your engine is protected from metal-to-metal contact. And I use it so much, I haven't got my car on the bottle. That's why whether I'm racing or cruising, I protect everything I drive with Valvoline. Valvoline, trusted for over 150 years.